know what time it is, Sandbox MMA crew. We are doing the rankings, and yeah, UFC has some fucked up rankings. Not gonna lie, man. Not gonna lie. We're gonna go through that. Obviously, the least of my worries right now is the women's bantamweight. Lightweight, obviously, is what I want to spend the most time on today. But let's just go through the bantamweight division really quick here. Aylin Perez moved up one spot. She was ranked 14 per the UFC. I have her at 15. I moved her above Germaine Durandamy. She's been more active. She's coming off a couple wins in a row now. Germaine Durandamy just lost to Norma Dumont, and before that, she hadn't fought in like 4 years. So she is going down to the 14 spot. I'm keeping Pannie Kianzad at 15 because Chelsea Chandler is so bad she should not be in these rankings. That's really all I have for changes here, and I think this sets up better for the Aylin Perez-Yana Santos fight that I talked about in matchmaking. And if you haven't already checked it out, go check out matchmaking. The matchups are really good. I do ramble on for a little bit on why I made those matchups, but that's just part of who I am. I'll get a little bit better as I keep going. We're still green on this, guys. But yeah, Aylin Perez, Yana Santos would end up being a good matchup if it was 13 versus 10. Even if it was 14 versus 14 versus 10, it doesn't really matter. But just think Aylin Perez deserves a spot up. Not much changing up until we get to the co-main event. Brian Battle was someone I was considering putting at 15 at welterweight, but doesn't deserve it yet. Neil Magny is still at 15 at welterweight, and he's tied with Kevin Holland per the UFC rankings. Kevin Holland will have had 2 fights in a row now at middleweight, so I'm not going to put him in the welterweight rankings, even though I do think he is quality of a welterweight ranked fighter. He's been fighting at middleweight recently, so I just don't really know what else to do. So I'm keeping Neil Magny as the guy. And I think that's great for a Brian Battle matchup to be able to take the number 15 spot. Just double checking, making sure there wasn't anyone else before we get to the 2 rankings we really want to talk about. Freziam's getting close. Ion Kudalaba, Umar Sy are still outside. Ludovic Klein getting close to lightweight, but again, these guys aren't in the rankings yet. They need a fight to get in. So let's just go to middleweight. And actually, the only changes are fighters that didn't fight. And I know I said I didn't want to do this, but I guess I lied. Obviously, we have this set up here, right? Now, I was debating putting Imavov up above Israel Adesanya, putting Whitaker at 2, Israel Adesanya at 5, and then putting Kaio and Imavov up 1, but that would just be me being a hater, and the rant that I'm about to go on when talking about Renato Moicano and his ranking, yeah, I'm not going to be biased. I'm going to prove to you that I'm not biased, and that's why Israel Adesanya's here at the 2. He still beat Whitaker technically twice, should have been once. We all saw that fight. It was a Whitaker win in the rematch, so that's bullshit. But the reason I kept Imavov here is, Robert Whitaker's coming off a couple wins in a row. Israel Adesanya, yes, coming off a couple losses, but again, it's only to Strickland and DDP, and technically Whitaker. So he's going to stay here at 2. I do think if he fought either of these 2 guys, he'd be very competitive. I do think, actually, Caio Borralho is a really good matchup against Israel Adesanya. I think it's good for Caio. And I think for Imavov, it might be a little bit trickier. But I'm keeping these guys here because they are the number 4 and 5 ranked guys, realistically. You have these 3 names in there that they're not able to jump just yet, especially considering Imavov lost to Strickland. But yeah, the reason I talk about that is because Jared Cannonier fought both these guys, both of which actually not both to a decision, but the Imavov one was a questionable stoppage. Caio Borralho fought to a decision, both great fights, competitive fights. Marvin Vettori lost to Jared Cannonier really badly. I don't get why Vettori was a spot above Cannonier. I get Cannonier's coming off 2 losses, but the last fight that Marvin Vettori had was against Jared Cannonier, and he got his ass beat. So, therefore, and also Marvin Vettori hasn't fought in over a year. So, therefore, Marvin Vettori's moving down to the 7. I was debating putting him below Brendan Allen, but I kept Brendan Allen where he is because I want to see this matchup happen between Vettori and Allen, but those are the only changes for middleweight. Cannonier goes up to 6 where he belongs. Vettori goes down to 7 where he belongs. And we get to lightweight, guys. A lot of changes being made, and these are the right changes. First of all, why on God's green earth has Max still been at 10 at lightweight? Either take him out or move him up because he has a win over Gaethje. Now, I'm not going to put him over Gaethje because that fucks with the whole rankings. I understand that, but he's better than 10. Plain and simple, he is. Renato Moicano was ranked 11. I moved him up 5 spots because why? Rafael Fiziev hasn't fought in a year. Michael Chandler, why the fuck was he at 6? He hasn't fought in multiple years, and his last couple fights are losses. Let's go to Michael Chandler's fights real quick, guys. I'm going to break it down for you. He is fighting on the John Jones card versus Stipe Miocic. He's fighting Charles Oliveira, a guy he already lost to. So when you go to Michael Chandler's record here in the UFC, he's 2-3. Knockout win over Dan Hooker. Great win. Also came on January 23rd of 2021. So we're looking at well over 3 years now. It's 3.5 years. Almost 4 years. Lost to Charles Oliveira, the number 2 ranked guy. Got finished. Then he lost to Justin Gaethje, the number 3 ranked guy. Decision, but got beaten really badly in that fight. Then he knocked out Tony Ferguson, who is not ranked, who hasn't won a fight since 2019. Then you go to Dustin Poirier. He lost a submission. So yes, he lost to all of these guys, 2 through 4 right here. Sure, he beat 5. But that was his debut. That was over 3.5 years ago. His last win is coming in 2022 in May. So again, we're looking at over 2 years since his last win. Oh, it's going to be 2 years since his last fight by the time he fights Charles. So, dude, I'm saying it. Michael Chandler's going down to the 5. It's not like he's fighting McGregor anymore, so it matters about having him in a high spot so McGregor can just jump back into a high spot in the rankings. So he's going down to 11. I'm sorry, guys. And I know I said he has the best chance of beating Islam Makhachev, and that got me a lot of, honestly, the comments were great. Some of them were just hating to hate because they're just angry people, but some of them were actually really funny. I get it, guys. It is a ridiculous thing to say that Michael Chandler has the best chance of beating Islam Makhachev. But if it's not Arman, and I don't want to be the guy that picks Arman like everyone else, I don't want to be the guy that picks Ilya because it's the other obvious one, it is a tricky matchup for Islam because it's fighting. We are talking about a sport of fighting. There is a puncher's chance in every fight. Michael Chandler has nukes in his hands, can hit really hard. He has great takedown defense. The only time that he gets in a non-dominant position is when he gets a takedown reversed. That's it. Happened with Gaethje. Happened with Poirier. He got submitted by Poirier because he got his ass beat earlier in the fight. Michael Chandler has a chance to catch Islam Makhachev early and stuff a lot of those takedowns and use American wrestling against Dagestani wrestling. Now, does Michael Chandler beat Islam Makhachev? No. Nobody in the lightweight division right now, I believe, can beat Islam Makhachev. But Chandler's got the best chance. I'm just going to say it at that. Now that I went on this rant that has nothing to do with the rankings, he's still down at 11 because he hasn't been active and he's coming off a loss. Simple as that. Rafael Fiziev got hurt. It's been over a year since he fought. I get it. It's due to an injury, but he's going down a spot because he is coming off a loss and over a year of fighting. Beneil Dariush coming off back-to-back losses, I believe. Charles Oliveira and Arman Tsarukyan. I get it. It's the number 1 and 2 guys. Finished in both fights in the first round. Hasn't fought since, I guess it was December, so I guess it hasn't been, it's been 10 months, actually. So I don't know what I'm saying. It's been 10 months since he's fought. He's going down below Gamrot because Gamrot's coming off, I get it. It's a loss against Dan Hooker, but it was a razor-close loss. And everyone before that he's beating. He beat Arman Tsarukyan. Sketchy decision. I actually had it for Arman. A lot of people did. He also beat Rafa Fiziev via injury. I get it. But he's beaten Rafael Dos Anjos before that. He's beaten a lot of these guys. He's winning fights. He is. Beat Jalen Turner's another guy. So, who's another striker that he beat? I don't remember. Regardless, it doesn't matter. He's coming off a loss, but before that, it is all wins for Mateusz Gamrot, except for the Beneil Dariush fight. But again, that fight was years ago, and Dariush hasn't been active and is coming off multiple losses since then. Max Holloway, simple as that, he beat Justin Gaethje. Now, I get putting him at 3 logjams the division, especially because he's going down to fight Ilya. If he was staying at lightweight, then he goes to 3, and it's as simple as that. Maybe 2. And he gets a title fight against Islam, maybe. So, that's... But he's not. He's going down to fight Topuria at featherweight. That's why he's staying at 7. I think it's justified. It's higher than 10, but I think it is justified that he doesn't cause issues in the lightweight rankings because he's going down to featherweight. So we'll see what happens in that fight, and then we'll reassess when he fights Ilya. Renato Moicano goes up to 5. Dude, can you guys show me someone that's put a bigger beating on someone at lightweight in recent, and within the past year than Moicano just put on Benoit Saint-Denis? Saint-Denis knocked out Frivola, guy not in the rankings. Chandler, again, we just talked about these guys. None of these guys have put beatings on anyone in the past year. Gamrot did not put a beating on RDA. He beat him, but he didn't put a beating on him. He got hugged. Holloway did his thing. I get it. But I'm going to put Moicano above him because he's more a reasonable contender. And then everyone else is above him. So, like, Moicano's going up to that spot. He is. He's coming off wins. Multiple wins. Dominant wins. Big, like, really good wins. Look at me. I sound like fucking Trump with these mannerisms. But, he's coming off these massive wins, dude. And he deserves it. He's battering his opponent, and he had a broken collarbone. And this guy is the best dude on the mic. He is one of the most marketable guys that you have right now. And I know Dana White, you sold out to Disney. I know you sold out to woke-ass Disney. But what Moicano says is true. The French crowd even loved it. Don't punish this guy in the rankings because Disney told you to fucking shut him up. That should mean you promote him more. That means more people are going to like him. Everyone loves Moicano. Base post-fight speeches, goes in there, and he has had some performances where it's meh. But when he does go in for grappling, he is going for finishes. He finished Jalen Turner. He brutalized Benoit Saint-Denis in enemy territory as a plus 220 underdog with a broken collarbone. And then he makes a great call out of Paddy Pimblett or Dan Hooker. You got Dan Hooker sitting at number 5. Moicano should be at number 6. Put those two against each other. This is absolute bullshit that the UFC has Moicano at 11 still. Why? Why is he not above Chandler, Dariush, Fiziev, Gamrot, Holloway? Why is he not above these guys? I don't know. Doesn't make sense. That's why we did the Sandbox MMA rankings. I just yelled for so long. Now I'm exhausted. I'm going to go get more water, hang out, get ready to make my predictions video for you tomorrow. That's coming out UFC 307s this weekend. Make sure you tune in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to this rant.